Hello. Well, now all of the lovely YouTube gang have quietened down a bit, I wanted to do a bit of a behind the scenes look for my most special audience. It's because of you that I can carry on creating and exploring these fun concepts and just developing my ideas. One of my favourite bits of creating videos, I've realised, is actually doing the credits at the end, where I get to see all of the same names cropping up each time. And it's so lovely to see you continuing to support me and chatting away on Discord. On that note, for those of you on the patron tier who are approaching your 1-year anniversaries, I'm going to start working on your little gift. So I'll be reaching out just to check names and addresses are correct. And I'll look to do a little video for the making of this too. Some of you, I've realised, may not want to have that gift because you value your privacy and don't want me to know your address. I totally get that. I mean, I have been rather threatening at times, and you know I've got a dungeon, so that's totally fine. But others may not appear in my list. So if you upgrade and downgrade each month, I might not spot it. So please just let me know either way. Anyway, I thought I'd give you a little more detail on the tiny tomes because there are some nice little points that I remember after I finish making the video. And I'm determined to get into the habit of sharing all of those extra bits. And plus I can answer any immediate observations or questions that have popped up in the comments as well. And there's always tons of B-roll. Get me using the professional video language. Anyway, so it would be great to share a little bit more of all that stuff. So settle back for a more chilled video whilst I chat you through some of the extra thoughts that I've had and explain a bit of the process of making this. I really like the book nooks as a general concept. So this was an obvious candidate for a book nook, bookshelf, if that's a thing. It is now. So I created a simple 3D print that was effectively supposed to resemble 2 old tomes sandwiching a tiny tome shelf. The file is included in the 3D prints for the tiny tomes, which I've put on my site if anyone wants to pinch that. Then I began painting it. I wanted to create a kind of layered look that resembled old leather books, so I began blocking out the main colours. Oh look, shout out to my Multi-Connect paint rack, which is still working amazingly. The paper part, I was careful to brush in the direction of the pages, and this meant that as I layered up the paint, it'd create a stroke effect to replicate the pages. And then I began to stipple the book spines. This is one of those really relaxing processes. You really can't go far wrong. You just want to layer up the different colours, and if it gets too light, just layer on a darker colour. You want the paint to be fairly dry to get that mottled effect, so you can see that I was heavily working it. And gradually it got more and more layered until all I needed to do was add some little foil strips for the spines. And then add the books to test the look. I created little fins to keep the books apart, stop them falling over, and it helps let you grab them too. Next, let's get onto the carousel. So this is a pretty simple build in Fusion. I just designed the features that I wanted, went through quite a few iterations actually, and I was using some of Bambu Labs metal effect filaments for this. So I'm using the iron one for the base and the lighter one for the carousel. And once I was happy, it was time for the M1 Ultra to spring into action. Oh, Barada, thanks for the tip on Discord. I've got an electrostatic mat arriving very soon, and I've got the hot foil pen too, so it would have been even better at this, but just teasing it off carefully worked quite well. Now the book you saw was actually a lovely chocolate box that I saw. Look at me upcycling, I'm so on trend. Again, the M1 Ultra in action. My first approach was to try cutting this in vinyl, but because the design is so fine, I just ended up getting tangled up in all the sticky stuff and the back couldn't get it off the backing sheet in one piece. But then I had the idea of using scratch art paper, which my children enjoy using. And it turns out that people online have used this with a laser cutter. Now, I found the results to be a bit dull, but what I did find was that scratching it off with the embossing tool resulted in a much shinier appearance. Realistically, this would need some sort of a coating on it, or it would pick up loads of scratches over time and get golder and golder. I suspect the hot foil pen would result in a much more permanent fixing, so I can't wait to try that. Oh, and an amazing tool if you haven't got one that I've had for years is this double-sided tape dispenser, which is so useful. You just look, drag and it layers it on and you can go around corners and everything. It's an awesome device. And that was the book finished. I just made a little 3D printed insert for it to display the tiny tomes. And now to the little stars of the show themselves. I created a template in Photoshop that was the precise size of my tiny tomes and then printed on label printer paper. This meant I could just print off my designs. This was then super easy. You just stick on an RFID tag to the 3D printed tome, then stick on a label. Bryn Terfel, Welsh shout out. If you haven't listened to Bryn Terfel, please do. He's got a beautiful voice. Firefly, you know, I met the entire cast of Firefly once whilst I was working in a bar at a film festival. But I had no idea who they were at the time. And then I discovered the show and I couldn't believe that I hadn't twigged. My Dad Wrote a Porno, great podcast. Just testing, they all beat correctly, perfectly fine. One bit I didn't cover is how powerful this reader is. It works perfectly happily through my dining room table, which is about 40mm thick, and that's solid oak. So you can really easily use these in lots of cool places. And yes, I got a little distracted by this catchy Monkey Island-esque tune. I'm pretty sure I was a pirate in a former life. I am Katie, mighty pirate. But these are great fun and they really are so easy to program in Home Assistant. Just tap and choose your automation. The instructions for this are on my site. The link is in the description of the video if anyone wants it. And of course, just ask in Discord if you're stuck or need an extra hand. Those instructions also cover how you program the RFID tags. Right, comments and other bits I forgot. Media abstraction. Firstly, one of the subtle but powerful benefits of an approach like this is that it totally abstracts the hardware from the software. If you think about how people built up record collections and then tapes came along, so they had to replace the whole collection, and then CDs replaced them and so on. It's a very expensive way of doing things. Likewise, you might have all your music with Spotify and then it becomes rubbish, and so you move to Tidal or Apple or Amazon or others. And this is a pain if your setup is centered around using Spotify's setup, API, your playlists are within it and more. Finally, you might have Sonos speakers now, but another brand in future. Well, these tags are completely agnostic. So if I upgrade my music to higher quality, then I could just repoint the old version to the new instantly. And if I want to play through my new speaker system, it just works. And this brings me to another point. Music Assistant is so much better at connecting to multiple brands of speakers. I've got Sonos speakers and Google Assistant speakers, Sony TV and more. And this has been a mess with all these brands. Google is happy for you to cast to their devices, but it gets very ropey casting to other brands as they try to block each other. Music Assistant just works, so I can have speaker groups that mix and match brands if I fancy. It's also got one of the few solutions that I've seen that works with Audible. Amazon are pretty terrible at this. For example, they don't let you share books in the UK, so this is so handy for allowing much better control than with Amazon's own app. How big a collection should I have? Well, I'd recommend looking at your habits and tackling the Pareto principle, i.e. 80% of your media habits. So if you commonly want to watch a particular film or television show or listen to a music album, then great, create a tome for that. However, remember that these go way beyond a standard album. So you can have it trigger a playlist that you like. And this could be genres that you like, or it could be smarter, like play music that I've added to my collection in the last year, or play music I haven't listened to in a while. Plus, think about common habits. So you can have a focus tome for when you're working, and this might shift the lighting or put devices on silent and turn on some focus music. And then you can have a chill mode where you play whatever music helps you relax. When you want to relax, the last thing you want to do is mess about with a phone, setting things up and making decisions. So why not program your tome to do this all for you in advance? Kids, as a few of you have clocked already in the comments, these are perfect for children. And it's actually what inspired me to create Tiny Tomes in the first place. My daughter's friend was given a Tony box for Christmas, and I thought, wow, this is a great concept. Your children can have the freedom of a little collection, but within the boundaries of what's appropriate for them. However, it just seemed to be limited to stories, and I thought, why would they read them then? And the cost of each one was ridiculous. 15 quid per story, considering I knew it would cost me just a few pennies to recreate. So Tiny Tomes lets you utilize modern media technologies without having to give them phones and devices, and provides absolute control over the music. I wasn't joking about my 6-year-old. He was using a Google device and had asked it to play Gangsta's Paradise, which is his favourite tune at the time. And it had obviously continued playlisting and drifted into other tunes. And I came in after he'd gone to sleep, and it was banging on about bitches and hoes. And I think that's about it for now. I absolutely love seeing all of your comments, cool ideas, and further inspiration for how we can extend these things. Like there was a comment by CarTag on YouTube, which talks about using this same concept for a smart wargaming table. And I thought that was a brilliant idea. So please do share your comments and ideas, because it is an absolute pleasure to read such brainy and creative ideas. I love this community. And on that note, it's time for me to start plotting the next video. Hwyl fawr.